Hey, what's up homies? This week we're back with some more guided videos. I've been wanting to do a how to Nidus for a long time, simply because I see so many players who do not use his full potential. So here it is. But again, before we dive in deep, my name is Swag and I make random videos on Warframe. If at the end you liked the video, do leave a like and subscribe for more guides, tips and tricks, discussion videos and more surrounding Warframe every Thursday. Right, so let's start off with the abilities. I'll explain how each of his abilities work and the synergies between them. So when we start modding, you'll understand the choices made. Let's first start with some general use and handy information surrounding Nidus, so we understand his abilities a little better. Nidus is a stacking frame, the first of its kind actually. This means that he has a meter or mutation stack counter next to the ability bar. Nidus can add or subtract stacks depending on the abilities he uses. Segueing perfectly into the passive ability, if Nidus is killed with at the very least 15 stacks of mutation, the 15 stacks get consumed or used to proc the Undying. The Undying makes sure that instead of getting downed or outright dying, you become invulnerable for 5 seconds and heal for at least 50% of your HP. Now it's worth to mention that if you do not have at least 15 stacks, you'll simply get downed or die. It only works upwards of 15 stacks. Meaning with a base total of 100 stacks, you are able to circumvent death 6 times without building more stacks. Moving on to ability number 1, Virulence. Nidus stomps on the floor, releasing a trail of space aids that steals energy from the enemy. With every 5th enemy hit by Virulence, you gain 1 mutation stack. With every enemy hit, Virulence refunds 25% energy as well. A very simple explanation, this is your stack builder and your energy source. Hit as many enemies as possible to refund your energy and gain stacks along the way. With every mutation stack built, you also make Virulence stronger, meaning everything surrounding Nidus is about his stacks and managing them effectively. Now, Virulence only has one quirk, namely, it can only be recast after it has hit its maximum range. So using Virulence on long-range paths isn't really recommended if you're trying to build your stacks as fast as possible. Instead, group enemies up in front of a wall and stomp them to death there. Make sure you can spam it by having less range to travel is about the best tip I can give you here. Now there's more to Virulence, but that'll unfold itself in a little bit with the next abilities. Ability number 2, the flying spaghetti monster, Larva. Nidus spawns a pod of infested snot that pulls enemies in faster than you can nut to your favorite tentacle hentai episode. Fairly simple CC ability that allows you to gain stacks a bit quicker and more efficiently if you place it right. Now in the past, if you wanted to be an asshole, you could shoot your buddy's collection of enemies and Nidus wouldn't gain stacks. However, this got patched a few months ago, so now enemies who get killed while on Larva have a chance of adding stacks. Which at first I questioned why make an OP frame like Nidus even more powerful, but it's actually just a quality of life change that I welcome wholeheartedly. Larva is also the subsumable ability. Radio ability number 3, the umbilical cord of death, Parasitic Link. This is Nidus's most important ability in my opinion. While stack building and CCing enemies is nice, it all goes down the drain if you can't hold your own against stronger enemies. You see, Nidus has no shields, so the absence of shield gating makes you think he's super squishy. Well, Parasitic Link puts an end to that thought real quick. On the basis, Parasitic Link links Nidus to an ally or an enemy, costing no energy but consuming 1 stack of your mutation. This ability, when linked to an ally, grants an increase of ability strength on both you and your ally. When linked to an enemy though, you gain damage redirection, meaning the linked target takes some of the damage inflicted to you. In effect, you can buff yourself and a teammate, requiring some game knowledge to choose the best pleb on your team. Or be selfish and become incredibly tanky. Especially on higher levels, the damage redirection is godsend since it keeps you alive long enough to keep building stacks. Now last, but oh boy, certainly not least, we have the voice of the maggots, Ravenous. Nidus releases parts of his mutation to cover the ground in infested matter. While on the ground, few things happen. Your health regenerates at a steady rate per second, and maggots spawn, latching onto enemies, staggering them for a short duration. The maggots also rupture when you hit them with Virulence, dealing even more damage. And like Parasitic Link, Ravenous does not drain energy, but will cost you 3 stacks. This ability helps with survivability as it constantly heals you, Paired with Parasitic Link, you become a virtually invulnerable, havoc-wreaking monster. Now let's move over to the builds. I have 3 builds for 3 varying levels of players, simply because Nidus is still obtainable from one of the best packages you can purchase for money, namely the Initiate pack. I will not be talking about arcanes too much, as these are completely optional in my eyes. Also a quick reminder that these builds are my own and don't serve as a copy build. I'd suggest testing them and using them as a template if you want to, but change them to your own preferences if you so desire. Right, so first off, the beginner build. This build focuses solely on survivability, easy to get mods, and an all-round enjoyable experience, making sure that all abilities are elevated and you never run into energy issues at all. We're running Corrosive Projection to decrease enemy armor, Intensify, Continuity, and Streamline for more power strength, duration, and efficiency, Stretch and Flow for more range and more energy overall, Vitality and Steel Fiber for more HP and increased armor, making you a lot tankier. And lastly, Hunter Adrenaline, which gives you energy when you take damage on health. Since Nidus doesn't have shields, you'll regain energy at a massive rate. Now this build is simply said enjoyable. It brings out the best of all abilities while having no real drawbacks. If you find yourself needing more power and you have the mods, you could swap out Intensify for Umbral Intensify or even for Blind Rage, if you're really struggling. Build number 2 is my basic bitch Nidus. This form of Nidus concentrates on doing things his own way and preferably rocking the me against the world attitude. We're running Corrosive Projection and Synth Reflex for decreased enemy armor, faster weapon holstering, and automatic reloading on the secondary and primary when they are holstered. Blind Rage, Primed Continuity and Streamline for power strength, more duration and some efficiency. Primed Flow, Stretch, and Augur Reach for overall energy and a lot of range for Larva specifically. Vitality and Adaptation for more overall health and damage resistance, making you incredibly tanky and able to walk around heavy enemies with ease. Now you can swap out Adaptation for Rolling Guard or go the Hyper Armor route and equip Gladiator Aegis and Arcane Guardian for an armor value Rhino can only dream about, but I'll leave that up to you. Build number 3 is the all-consuming Endurance Nidus, or my Endurance Nidus. This Nidus is all about armor values and becoming as tanky as possible, just to withstand the horrors of endurance runs. First and foremost, I subsumed Valkyr's Warcry and put it where Larva used to be. Since we'll be moving around a lot and enemy swarms are everywhere, I don't see a use for a one-time use CC, especially considering that you will probably have teammates with better abilities around anyway. What does Warcry do? Warcry increases your speed while decreasing the speed of enemies and also boosting your armor values into the fucking sky. Build-wise, again, this is all variable. We're starting with Speed Holster. Not a lot of people like this mod apparently, but I find it super important to switch between primary and secondary as fast as possible, especially for those high enemy levels. Power Drift to boost our ability strength plus 30% chance to resist knockdowns. Transient Fortitude, Primed Continuity and Stretch for ability strength, duration and range. Since we don't have Larva, we can afford having less range, but we're not going into minus because we also want to kind of buff our allies a little bit and have a bit more range on Parasitic Link. Umbral Vitality and Umbral Intensify for more health and strength. Hunter Adrenaline again gives you energy for your damage on health. While you'll technically get one shot during the later stages, this mod is super helpful in the beginning when you're still building stacks. Now again, I have Adaptation in here simply because our armor values will be sky high and we also have our operator to work with should we need an escape. But again, switch it out for Rolling Guard if you really don't like this kind of playstyle or just need an extra oh fuck button. Lastly, Eternal War, granting us 2 seconds more duration for each melee kill on Warcry. Basically ensures that we can have our Warcry on at all times. Now for this build I have Arcane Energize for energy pickups should we be in an energy dip, and Arcane Guardian for a 15% chance for 900 armor for 20 seconds. Now again, arcanes are optional and I'm sure there's a better combo out there, but this is how I like to set up my Nidus. I almost forgot to mention that Parasitic Link also makes sure that you're status immune, including knockdowns. So Prime Surefooted isn't really necessary unless you forget to link all the time. But at that point, you should probably just watch this video again, because you're doing it wrong. Now I have tried Warcry instead of Ravenous, Running into low health without lifesteal mods on your weapons is quite a bitch, so for the occasional I just want to chill for a bit, I went with deleting larva instead. And let me just say that subsuming abilities is not necessary at all, especially on frames such as Nidus, of whom's abilities work so well together it almost feels like robbing them of their identity. However, I wanted to create a build that is incredibly selfish and makes surviving a breeze to a certain extent. As you can probably tell from my last Jaku build, Jaku Endurance build, I like to run along the line of almost dying and winning. That is where I like to be. If you don't pay attention as Nidus, you die. If you make a misstep, you die. You lose your stacks, you die. This is how I like to play. Very dynamic. Okay, so we know about the abilities, and we have a few builds to rely on. Now, how do we actually play Nidus? It's fairly simple actually, assuming we have no subsumed abilities and we're going for a longer run. The first thing you do is find a large group of enemies and cast Virulence a few times. This is only to build up enough energy to just keep spamming the ability. But as soon as you hit one stack and you have enough energy, cast your Parasitic Link. Even on lower levels, you don't want to spend time on your ass from knockdowns. After that, you cast larva in larger groups, simply to build up stacks with Virulence. Building and maintaining stacks is the most important thing you need to keep an eye on. Since a large chunk of the damage will be directed by Parasitic Link, you can breathe a little easier. Oh, you forgot it again. How about you link to an enemy right now? While fighting even strong enemies, you might want to start using Ravenous a bit more. Not only to top up your HP, but more so to make sure you keep your stacks in check. Continuously using larva to gather a ton of enemies and downing them with Virulence. Also, link to a fucking enemy. For the love of Cthulhu, man, just do it. Now this wouldn't be one of my videos if I wouldn't cover at least one weapon to go with Nidus. But I actually have two. First off, the Hate or Reaper Prime. With Healing Return or Life Strike. Yes, lifesteal on a scythe. Fucking deal with it. This makes sure you don't fucking die and tops up your health on a constant basis when you forget to use Ravenous. But my favorite weapon to use on Nidus are the Hirudo. NANI? Infested fists that heal you up whenever you crit on an enemy, supplying you with an incredible rate of healing while you mow down enemies. These fists make you use Ravenous even less, so you don't have to rely on staying in one space for an extended period of time, especially handy while doing disruption missions. Now the Hirudo aren't particularly powerful, but with the right primers you can basically rip and tear as long as you want. Alright, lastly, how do we get Nidus? So the main blueprint is rewarded upon finishing the Glassed Gambit quest, a quest praised by a lot of players. Alright, just kidding. The quest is fucking terrible, but Nidus is definitely worth the abuse. After that, you get to play Infested Salvage for a while, because Nidus parts only drop from Rotation C. So yeah, good luck with that. Admittedly, you can easily think of the Nidus farm as another way of getting nanospores for energy pads, which are used for Eidolon hunts, but I'll cover that another time. Now, if you liked the video, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe for more guides, how-tos, and of course the juicy discussion videos. Again, next week is going to be the everything you need to know about the operator, so make sure to tune in next week, Thursday. Stay safe out there, Tenno. Later.